Many of you who have been stuck on Waterfall may think it is a bit scary to make the transition to something new, but I assure you that if you need to be scared of anything, it is big design up front. I would like to make a small comparison between iterative software development and the LaFerrari that Chris Harris is driving about the track, as you see here. It is not horrible and messy. It is just controlled, brilliantly capable, and also hugely enjoyable. As we continue through the series, I am sure you'll come to agree with me. Hi everyone, thanks for coming back, and today we will be talking about the product backlog. So the two things that we'll be talking about today is what is a product backlog and what is the difference between an epic, a feature, a user story, and a task. Product backlog. What is a product backlog? The product backlog is just a list of all that needs to be done within the project. It can be technical items or it can be user-centric. The owner of the Scrum product backlog is the Scrum product owner. The Scrum Master, the Scrum team, and other stakeholders contribute to it to have a broad and complete to-do list. So I want to talk about this for a little bit. So this is our list. This is the ID of each item. This is the estimation, and we'll talk more about this later. This is the priority of our items in our list. So here we've got priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, and so forth. No two items can have the same priority. This is called a forced ranked list. I also talked about some different roles, like the Scrum product owner. That is just the person that owns the project that you're working on, and we'll talk more about that later. The Scrum Master is someone who is in charge of helping you create the sprints and to make sure that as you're working that no one's really bothering you. The Scrum team or the actual developers and QA people and whoever else is going to be on your team to help you build the project, and there are other stakeholders. So I'll talk about these roles in more detail later. The product backlog has certain properties that differentiate it from a simple to-do list. Each entry in the product backlog always provides value for the customer. The product backlog is a living document, which means that it's constantly changing, being added to, being removed from, and so forth. The level of detail depends on the position of the entry within the product backlog. There are no action items or low-level tasks in the product backlog. The entries in the product backlog are prioritized and ordered accordingly. All entities in the product backlog are estimated, and like I said, we'll have a separate video on estimation. Product backlog items. What types of basic work items do we have in our backlog? So I'm going to talk about the items that are in our backlog in a slightly different order. But the most popular item is a user story. A user story is simply something a user wants. This could map to a single requirement or a collection of requirements. So here we have a sample user story as it should be written. So as a type of user, I want some goal so that I can do some reason. So furthermore, if you take a look at this example, as an approved user on my machine, I can indicate folders not to back up so that my backup drive isn't filled up with things I don't need. So as long as you write your user stories with a certain type of idea, who's going to be doing it, what's the goal, what's the reason, then that work can be quantified. I prefer a user story to not take up more than 40 hours. If it does, then you need to break it up. Now let's talk about tasks. Tasks are granular versions of work that a developer does to complete a user story. A task is a technical piece of work to get a user story done. Developers split a story into technical tasks to get a realistic estimate of the time it will take to complete a user story. I prefer a task not to take longer than 8 hours. If it does, then break it up. Features. A feature is a distinct element of functionality which can provide capabilities to the business. It generally takes many iterations to deliver a feature. By splitting a feature in smaller stories, the user can give early feedback to the developers about issues, changing requirements, etc. quickly. A feature is a collection of user stories. Epics. Epics are significantly larger bodies of work. Epics are collections of work that encompass many features. According to my experience, epics may be 6 months of work or more. So this is the slide that brings it all together for our product backlog and the type of work items that are in it. Epics are a collection of features. Usually I have only one or two. You might have more. It just depends on the size of your project, but typically you won't have very many of these compared to the different types of work items that are in your backlog. These are features. Features are a collection of user stories. User stories are a collection of tasks. So your user story should not be more than 40 hours. If it is, you need to break it up or create additional user stories. Task is a unit of work that is done typically within 8 hours or less. And this is what it will typically look like inside your backlog in TFS. So I'll talk about this just a little bit. So here is our work item type. Here's our epic. You can see here in this example that this epic is the top level work item that we have. And then underneath the epic we have the feature. I only have one feature here. Underneath the feature I have several user stories. These are all in blue, as you can see. And then under each user story I have a task. So the tasks are all in yellow. Right now the state of all these items that they're all new, they're all assigned to the same person, and they're all in the same iteration. So anyway, that's all I have for now. We'll talk more about these in future videos where I talk about Scrum and Agile and CMMI. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.